Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Maxwell. I'm the creative director at Sponge, who, as you probably are aware, are a mobile marketing agency of repute. I want to speak for a little while about the mobile shopper. Mobile shopper is, I think, a relatively recent evolutionary development of the human species. She's come about because of the existence of these things. Now, Sponge have been working with mobile devices for, 10, 12 years now? And as we all know, in that time, they've changed massively. They were originally just phones without wires. And they turned into these things, which are incredibly powerful computers that can connect their carrier with any corner of the internet, anywhere in the world. The sum of human knowledge is in your hand. And actually, by extension, almost everybody in the world, in a moment. And I've come to terms with the fact, in my time at Sponge, having escaped traditional digital, that really I'm living in science fiction. This is science fiction. This is not real, this stuff. This is some kind of futuristic shit that really shouldn't exist. And it reminds me of this by William Gibson, who you may be aware of. William Gibson, a science fiction writer, who predicted a lot of this stuff, who said, that the future is already here. It's just very unevenly distributed. Now, that's interesting because there's a long tradition, there's a deep trope in science fiction about this idea of at what point do the machines become so intelligent that they become aware, like HAL in 2001: Space Odyssey. At what point do they gain consciousness? And what constitutes awareness? And it kind of occurs to me more and more that the definitions of awareness can be designated by mobile phones. They have an acute physical awareness. They know where they are, to within a meter, anywhere on the planet, which is more than I do. They know how to get home. They know where they are in relation to lots of other things. They have physical awareness. They have social awareness. My phone knows all my friends' numbers. It knows who I speak to. It knows who I'm close to. It understands my social context better than I do. It knows when I wake up in the morning. It knows what I do, how I go shopping. It knows everything about me. That level of data stops being data at a certain point quite quickly and becomes intuition. Intuition is a very useful thing because what it means is that the mobile device has become more than just a tool. It's actually become part of the brain because it's imitating and it's molding and it's learning the same way the brain does. So I want to kind of run with William Gibson's thought about the future already being here. And if it is the case that the future is already here, what does it look like? Is it this? Is this the future? Is this what we've become? Are we these sort of infantilized, passive, consumer, blubbery animals enthralled to our devices which tell us what to do? It's actually, I've just come back from Canary Wharf. It looks a lot like this down there. So I'm not sure that is, but is that it? Is that the future, or is perhaps the future, and obviously the present, something slightly more mundane? Is it ASDA? ASDA, one of our clients at Sponge, estimate, and that's an important word, estimate, that they have about on an average weekend day, 1 million people pass through their stores. 1 million people pass through their stores in the UK, and just about everyone will be carrying a phone. And if we assume they're fairly typical members of the UK population, 67% of those will be smartphones. So these are the mobile shoppers. You add Tesco's and Morrison's and everybody else into that. You have these mobile-equipped, smart-equipped shoppers. So what I want to do is have a look at them, have a look at their motivations, have a look at the way they think, have a look at how we can communicate with them and what the opportunities are there for. So here's a mobile shopper, here she is, again. This is Katie. Now, Katie was in Asda this weekend. The funny thing is, Asda aren't really sure that it was her. They're not really sure that she was there, because Asda can access a whole raft of different databases that Katie is on. The problem is, as with so many of us these days, Katie goes by many different names. That's one name that she has. That's where she first signed up to an Asda promotion when she was living in Brighton. She doesn't live there anymore, but the mail still bangs on the doormat. She's got a work address now. She's got a work address, email address. That's quite useful, that one. She's got a personal one that she signed up with originally. She doesn't use that anymore, it's a bit childish, so she's abandoned that one. It's still open though, it's flooded with rubbish. She's got a series of other email addresses that she's fired up to get a bit more anonymity. She has her Facebook identity that she uses for the things that are really important to her friends and to the brands that she cares about. And that's a gateway to all other kinds of identities and services and platforms, all of which know her by different names and by different information. She's got phone numbers, landlines. You have to have a landline to get a credit card. Nobody ever uses it. You need credit cards. She's got a few credit cards, probably have another one soon. She's got next card, more loyalty cards. You can shake a stick out. She's even got these kind of things now, where she's given a different name to brands in order to kind of get in. The names go on and on and on. The reason that we're interested in mobile, the reason we're interested in the mobile shopper, is that the one identity that she never changes, she hasn't changed for 10 years, and she's bitterly resistant to changing, is her mobile phone number. It hasn't always been Vodafone, it's been O2, it's been somebody else. And that's because that is the name by which she is known by the people that care about her. The address books of her friends in their phones know her by that. They know that number. So you can start to understand the importance or the value to a retailer and a brand getting that phone number. Because knowing that allows us to do more than just call her or send her a text. It gives us a static point of reference. It allows us to calibrate all of these other data points and start to build up a really interesting picture. But it all comes from the phone number. Does that sound scary? I'm showing some scary stuff. This is Motorola. You might remember Motorola used to make mobile phones. They weren't very good mobile phones. They've moved on beyond that now. This is something that Motorola are developing. It's a digital tattoo. And this is actually on the arm of the woman who is leading this venture, whose name I forget, probably intentionally because I'm so terrified of her. But it comes from the insight that the average modern human mobile shopper, if you will, has to authenticate themselves or identify themselves an average of 39 times to machines, to your Oyster card, your credit card, etc. Great consumer insight. We eliminate that 39 authentication. You just have that. Has anybody seen the film In Time? Justin Timberlake. You know where I'm coming from. Science fiction. If you think that's scary, how about this one? They're also working on a pill which you can swallow, a bit like a contraceptive pill. You take this pill every day. It's detectable as an active RFID tag, so that you don't need to tap in with your Oyster card. You just swan straight in. You go to a shop, you just take what you want and leave. And it'll be deducted from your bank account. Science fiction? Yeah, it's already here. It's just unevenly distributed. And we have to live in it. We have to live in it. So, what are the coping mechanisms? Because humans are very adaptable things. Now, fortunately, Katie has got two very powerful defense mechanisms. Partly personal to Katie, but partly also, I think, to all humans. First of all, she understands the value of her data, and she understands the predatory nature of marketing as well. And she understands the importance of protecting that number from people like me, people like you. And her response to brands trying to get her number is much the same as if I swaggered up to her in a bar at 11:10 on Old Compton Street and said, "Give me your number!" She'd tell me, "Fuck off." Quite rightly. And that means I have to have something much more interesting, much more empathetic, and a bit cleverer to say to her, to exchange, rather than just shouting for her attention. The other defense mechanism she has is this principle. Now, that's not to say that she's lazy or stupid. This is a sort of central tenet of traditional digital. It's called user experience by any other word. I'm quoting Steve Krug here, who's written a seminal work on this called Don't Make Me Think, and he expresses it very nicely. I don't know if anybody's ever done the eye tracking testing on user interfaces. It's a profoundly depressing experience if you're a designer. And if you're a copywriter, you just want to slash your wrists. This is, as he says, what we designed for. Here's a page. So we're assuming you'll come in the introduction, you'll read carefully all the bullet points, you'll go to the top, you'll carry on down, pause for reflection, and then finally click on one carefully chosen link. In fact, what happens is people land on the page, they go, oh shit, click, boom, that's not right, back button, shit, click, and so on. You know, we have a deep disinterest in devoting time to bad design. So this principle, combined with the fact that we have these devices that know more about us than we do, suggests that as a prediction for the future beyond the present, which is now the future, we'll start seeing search engines which go from search to find, because this is a search engine that acknowledges that most of us don't really know what we're looking for. And it'd be much easier, actually, if you could put it to us and find it for us. Anyway, that's the future. Let's talk about the present again, or sort of about 6 months ago. This is my daughter on the right, actually, with her best friend Maisie. And Angelica's 14 now. And like any 14-year-old, she has a deep antipathy to being seen out with her parents anywhere, which makes shopping quite complicated. So during the winter, we realised we needed to get Angelica some winter clothes. But she wouldn't come with us. She wanted to hang out with Maisie. So me and her mother went into town, and we did a bit of what ended up being quite interesting market research, really. Looking at how different brands acknowledge the mobile shopper. Because the mobile shopper is not necessarily in the shop, it could be somewhere else. So what happens was we would have to go off, we would have to pick up a jacket, take a photograph of it, text it to her, she'd show it to Maisie, Maisie would go, ugh. Text it back saying no, we'll try another one. It's quite an involved process. But it's interesting to see how people responded to that. Now, we looked at Burberry. Now, Burberry obviously is positioned as this paragon of technological advance of the future. It's the future store. In fact, all they actually have is this big video screen. And there's some other mirrors upstairs that we couldn't find. There's nothing there. Now, partly, to be fair, that is the brand. That's the nature of the Burberry brand. But it really is a non-participation process. There's nothing in there that helps me use my phone to help me find something. Just around the corner, Abercrombie and Fitch, they have a different approach, which is fit lads with their tops off, which, you know, marketing, that's how it works. This is quite clever because you go there and you're invited to have your photograph taken with, and you know, 95% will be on a mobile phone. So that shot gets taken, bit of brand love, it goes onto Facebook, it's great. Problem is when you actually want to buy something, you go in the store, you're not allowed to take pictures. So that's the end of that. Great bit of brand work, lousy retailing. So I've condensed this, obviously, because I don't want to take you all the way down Regent Street, but after a while you find that going and transmitting pictures by 3G gets quite expensive. Now, that's the problem for me, big issue for a 14-year-old. You know, I don't want to spend money. Why isn't there Wi-Fi? You can tell there's Wi-Fi in the stores, but there's no access to them. If there was Wi-Fi in Zara, I could have been there, I could spend time there. And it wasn't until we met Miguel, this is Miguel at Puma in Carnaby Street, pretty low rent brand, pretty low rent store actually, but the guys in there just completely understood it. Maybe they're of that generation, they completely got it. They said, oh right, okay, I see what you're doing, where is she? All right, try this. And they tapped us into the staff Wi-Fi there so we could use the Wi-Fi. You know, suffice to say she's wearing a lot of Puma this season. I'm reading from my notes here. I find it cuts the waffle by about 50%, which is really good because you know how marketing people like the sound of their own voices. That's a bit of theory. I want to show you a few examples of things actually being done as well, which are good examples, I think, of this kind of work. Now, the Wi-Fi connection thing is an interesting one. We're going to see more and more of this, of stores and retailers and brands introducing Wi-Fi as a commodity or as a promotion. It's a chore identifying on Wi-Fi. Scrabble did quite a nice thing where you hit the Wi-Fi zone. This is the splash page of the login page, and you're dealt a hand or whatever you have of Scrabble pieces. Whatever you can make out of those Scrabble pieces equates to minutes of Wi-Fi. So you can gamify the whole process, which makes it really interesting, as well as really pushing the core essence of Scrabble. Quite low numbers on this, but I'm not too bothered about that because the principle applies, I think. I'd like to see more of that. by contrast, in terms of numbers, this is a project that at Sponge we did this year, the McDonald's Monopoly Fortunes, which is their yearly promotions. I'm sure you're familiar with this. Increasingly mobile. There's 11 million entries this year, of which 4 million came through mobile. Which doesn't really surprise me, because mobile phones and fast food restaurants, they're like that. I suspect the fact that the remaining 6 million odd, 7 million were on desktop is because they don't give you Wi-Fi. If I had Wi-Fi, I would have sat there and done it straight away on the phone. It's an instant win mechanism. Why wouldn't you? Talked a bit about the dystopian science fiction of the future. This is a really interesting project in China. As you know, the kind of one-child policy in China makes it quite stressful being a parent if you lose your child. And of course, there's a big problem with kidnapping and children going missing. It's an enormous country. So what they've done is they've created a database which uses face tracking technology. You see a kid that you think, oh, where did that kid come from? It's just arrived next door, and they say it's theirs. You can take a photograph of his face, or match it against a database, and they can try and match those children together with their families. This is a weird one which I can't describe, so I've got to play the video. So to conclude, really, I just thought that football thing was amazing, because is that the future? We do a lot of work in Africa, and I'm really intrigued to see where that plays out, because I think a lot of mobile usage is being initiated there, and although the technology is slightly behind us, the way it's integrated into life, into social life and business life and everything else is way ahead of us, actually. So, but this is my vision of the future. Predictions of the future, which are really just observations based on the behaviour of 14-year-olds, because I think that's probably the best indicator. Future looks a lot like the past. And you remember, in the past there was no such thing as privacy. In fact, being a stranger was a very dangerous thing. You lived in a village, you never left the village. Everyone knew who you are, where you came from, you were part of a community. As I said, being a stranger is a very dangerous thing to be. If you're an old woman who lived on the edge of town with a couple of cats, things can turn nasty. If you come into town and you've got a strange accent, and that same day somebody's cow disappears, it's a matter of life and death. Privacy and exclusion, or transparency and inclusion, is the question we're going to have to face as humans, as mobile shoppers, as evolutionary change. And I hope that's a thought-provoking idea. Thank you very much.